I think it is the rising threat from states and the consequences that stem from this for the military that is of most immediate concern, and particularly to me as the head of the army. We now live in a much more competitive, multipolar world, and the complex nature of the global system has created the conditions in which states are able to compete in new ways, short of what we would have defined as war in the past. It is what US Defense Secretary Mattis described last week as great power competition. I quote, "We will continue to prosecute the campaign against terrorists that we're engaged in today, but great power competition, not terrorism, is now the primary focus of US national security. I believe our ability to preempt or respond to these threats will be eroded if we don't match up to them now. They represent a clear and present danger. They are not thousands of miles away. They are now on Europe's doorstep."
He also used that phrase, that its army, meaning Russia's army, on NATO's doorstep. Why is that? Is it not logical to look at this and say the reason that the Russian army is on NATO, the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is because NATO has expanded rather than the Russians expanding? That, in other words, NATO has moved closer to Russia rather than Russia moving closer to NATO? Is that not an accurate way to look at this?
I think that's the way President Putin probably looks at it. It's certainly not the way that we look at it.
You don't think that NATO has expanded eastward toward Russia?
NATO has expanded,
Okay.
and the expansion has been a good thing for...
So the reason that the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is not the fault of the Russian army, it's not the Russian army that's done it. It's NATO has moved closer to moved
I'm pretty
east.
sure it wasn't NATO who was ordering, upwards of 15 battalion tactical groups to within 10 kilometers of the border with Ukraine. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't NATO who put little green men inside Ukraine to destabilize eastern
I'm
states.
pretty sure that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So unless that's changed,
It's not
Okay.
changed, but I'm
So,
pretty sure the movement by Russia is
has
Russia's
NATO
decision.
if NATO has moved east, the reason that the Russian army is closer or on NATO's doorstep is because NATO moved, not
NATO.
because
We need to improve our ISTAR capability, intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance, to be able to target deep fires, because we have got to revert to an era when we are able to focus on the enemy's uncommitted forces, the so-called deep battle that we soldiers talk about. So how we educate and train our policymakers in making the decision that they might need to make is vital. So how we educate and train our policymakers in making the decision that they might need to make is vital.
I take full responsibility.
Really?
Really? Yes, sir. It is the reason I sit in this chair.
In our 77 Brigade, which I shall come back to, we've got some remarkable talent when it comes to social media, production design, and indeed Arabic poetry. Those sorts of skills we can't afford to retain in the regular component, but they are the means of us delivering capability in a much more imaginative way, and indeed Arabic poetry. Those sorts of skills we can't afford to retain in the regular component, but they are the means of us delivering capability
I couldn't believe it when the bartender told me who you are.
Why are you talking to me, man?
Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes. He saved 800 lives, including yours. I dare you to do better. Enlist in Starfleet.
You will experience fear. Fear in the face of certain death.
Pull your chute!
We received a distress call.
I've been waiting for this day my whole life. This day of reckoning.
We've got no captain and no first officer to replace him.
Yeah, we do.
You are capable of deciding your own destiny. The question is, which path will you choose?
James T. Kirk was a great man, but that was another life.
They're locking torpedoes.
Emergency evasive!
Fire everything!